Hello, friends, and welcome. My name is Popeye, and today we're playing some Steins Gate Zero. Last time, we had a split episode. We finished up Higurashi relatively quickly, much to my wishing it could have been finished up the previous stream if that was the case. And we started on Steins Gate Zero. I won't do any summary of Higurashi, just in case anyone watching this wasn't part of that and wants to experience it. However, as for Steins Gate Zero, so this is first of all a sequel to the original Steins Gate. So if you haven't seen that, lots of spoilers. Obviously, it's a sequel. So now's your time to duck out. If you're staying, this follows. Because Steins Gate has many endings. It's about time travel. It has lots of endings. So this follows a very specific ending. This follows the ending where we, as Okabe, go back to try and stop Christina from dying, but fail. And instead of going back to try it a second time, we're just like, nope, we're done. This is the best we can do. We're stopping here. So it's been a couple months since then. We're now at a conference where we are assisting one of our professors and basically trying to brown nose a bunch of people to get into their universities for, I guess it would be his master's degree later. Or maybe he just wants to switch schools. So we met this girl who's on screen, Maho. She is a scientist from America, from the same team Christina was from, and she's here to assist with what her professor is doing, which is basically what Christina's research was on, which was taking your memory, embedding it into a computer, except in this case, instead of being able to then take that memory and put it back into your head, which was how they did the time travel stuff, they're basically trying to create AI that acts as the you from that point in time. And their thoughts are, in future uses, you might, like, let's say you have a memory issue, Alzheimer's, or something similar. It can help restore your memory from that point in time and keep you from losing any more memory. And of course, the actual, like, AI implications of that. So we're kind of at the after party right now. We were talking with her, and basically we were talking about her research and said some things that we knew because we had spoken to Christina in the past before she died on another world line. And now Maho and I are just talking about Christina, and that's basically where we are. So yeah. Hello, Samuses. How are you doing? To the after party with boring people who don't have eyeballs because they didn't want to draw them. Why do my streams start with making young girls cry? Had a rough start today, but after some fun conversation, doing great. Glad to hear it, Samuses. Glad to hear you're doing better. How am I? Doing all right. So I broke a couple things today. So I drove over to my new house, which is currently being renovated, to mow the lawn, and it's a electric corded lawnmower, and I accidentally ran over the cable. So I had to get a new cable, so I'm gonna have to go back and finish cutting the lawn later. And then, as I was making lunch, I dropped a dish, so I broke a dish too, so... Other than that, it's been a good day. How does that work? So, think of an electric mower, the one that have, like, those rechargeable batteries, which is basically what all modern electric mowers are. This is an older one. So basically, you have a long extension cord from your lawnmower into some outlet. And you just have to make sure you don't run over it, which I did not do that. Yes, so there's, to my knowledge at least, there's three types of mowers. You have gas, which is probably the most common. You have electric with a long cord, And then you have electric with a battery. I guess you also have push mowers. I guess that's also a thing. But yeah, electric mowers are a thing. Do people still use push mowers? Yes. I have heard of people who still use push mowers, mainly because of environmental reasons. It is the main reason. She smiled, or so I thought. Then all of a sudden, she started to cry.
どうした
I didn't have any better idea, so I grabbed my handkerchief. She didn't seem to know why she was crying herself. And neither did I. But I said something during the conversation that set her off.
大丈夫か
ごめんなさい。
Yeah, so then after I broke the cord on the mower, I started... There's just so many dandelions. I just started pulling out a bunch of dandelions. Because it's the thing, like, you know, if one house has dandelions, they just blow down the street and then everyone has dandelions. So I'm trying to do my part to not continue it, because it's, like, blown to my house, and I don't want it to, you know, I don't want the people past us to get dandelions, but... So I took out a good chunk of dandelions for, like, 40 minutes or something. She didn't take my handkerchief. Instead, she took a tissue out of her pocket and wiped her eyes.
You can know Dyson Einstein. Eh?
Oh, and this is her professor, man. Dr. Leskinen. He grabbed my hand as he got closer. The handshake was incredibly forceful. And his hands were as big as a bear's paws. No, not just his hands. He was so big we couldn't fit him on screen. Staying in front of me, he looked even bigger than he had during the lecture. I'm pretty tall, but he was at least a head taller than me.
教授、俺、その...
Uh-oh. It was all so sudden that I couldn't even think of an introduction. And wait, did he just speak in Japanese?
しかし、私の助手を泣かせてしまったのは見過ごせないね。いや、これは。
違います、教授。私が勝手に。彼は関係ないですから。
Maho and I denied it as much as we could. But I didn't know why Maho was crying, so I couldn't come up with any excuses. I just started to panic even more.
つまりその...
クリスです。彼とクリスの話をしていたら、いろいろ感情が溢れてしまって。
クリス？君はクリスの友人？それは... はい。
岡部倫太郎さん、学生だそうです。
Maho introduced me. Dr. Leskinen had a gentle expression on his face as he gave me a slow hug. This is like the most awkward introduction. I felt like I was going to suffocate in his massive arms. Somehow I could tell that it was his way of remembering Kurisu.
そうですか。そういうことなら、魔法。
はい？
ミスター・オカーベに合わせてあげたらどうかな、彼女を。
まさか、アマデウスを？
ここで彼に出会った偶然、その幸運を大切にしたいじゃないか。日本にいる間、彼にテスターになってもらってもいいよ。
本気ですか？部外者なのにそんないきなり。
クリスの友人ならば部外者ではない。そうだろう？
ですが。
What were they talking about? I had no idea, but this was my chance to build a relationship with Dr. Leskinen. Where's the time travel in quantum physics? I didn't want to Well, before you can do your time travel and quantum physics, you have to brown nose some professors. That's how education works.
俺ぜひお手伝いしたいです。
Nice!
He patted me on the shoulders and smiled. It's an innocent smile, like a child's.
じゃあ詳細は魔法に聞いてよろしく。
Unfortunately, he was like 6'5". Another scientist was calling him, so he wandered away. Wait, do you mean he wandered towards the other scientist, or he's like, oh crap, someone else wants to speak to me? I'm going this way, bye. Maho was shaking her head in disbelief.
アマデウスに合わせるとかテスターとか一体何の話なんだ？
コンベンションでやったデモンストレーション。アマデウスは私の記憶を使っていたんだけれど、アマデウスのデータとしてもう一人分研究者の記憶が保存してあるのよ。
Another researcher's memories? Well, let's take a guess. How many other researchers do we know who worked for this company? What did that mean? When I finally figured it out from Dr. Luskin and Maho's conversation, my heart started pounding.
まさかあいつなのか？
そう。アマデウスの中にはマキセ・クリスの記憶が保存されているわ。8ヶ月前のクリスだけれどね。
Several days passed after the ATF party. 10 minutes from Ikebukuro via the express train, then 10 minutes by bus from a station called Wako City in Saitama. The office I was looking for was on the second floor of a building, right next to Riken. Global Brain Science Comprehensive Research Organization, Japanese Office Prep Room. That was what the plate on the door said, and they couldn't have come up with a longer name. To get in, you needed 3 types of special keys, plus a security card.
各国の脳科学研究者が連携をして新しい機構を作る予定なの。私たちの研究所が主導してね。
She led me inside. What weirds me out is they switched the cell phone from being right trigger to being left trigger, so I always press right trigger first. Oh, I see we're using my favorite phone operating system, Windows XP, as seen as XP in the top right-hand corner. We've got Ferris, and our options are only emojis. Mysterious Suketos have at last appeared in Akihabara, nya? Okay, do we want to answer with Bois? A frog, like, calling out to someone? Or... or the keychain character, like, going, what? Bois? Okay, Bois it is. I hope there's just an entire conversation that's just all emojis. You haven't heard of the ancient urban legends of Akihabara, nya? Know about a few of them, but the Suketos are new to me. A group of 3 people sits in the backseat of a certain maid cafe. They appear. Or so they say, nya. Cat. Oh gosh, is this game gonna have texting uwoos? Oh my... I may be reading out some uwoos at some point. And now we have... Danger Omu Rice. What are you doing? Why am I getting so many? Thank you, Samuses. Why do you just keep sending me these? No one ever knew which maid cafe it was. Until now, nya. It's May Queen, nya. Stop sending me these! What is going on? Is everything okay? Do you need help? Everything's fine, nya. They just join your game in the middle of a raid and kill-steal all the mobs. Why are... First of all, you went to a maid cafe to open up your laptop and play Final Fantasy XIV, and the ghosts are like, cool bro, can we join in too? And then they kill-steal. This is the greatest interaction of all time. Hang on a second. Stop! The phone just closes! That's the end of this conversation. There's nothing else. That's it. It's amazing. Danger. Yep, danger. So much danger. The office must have been newly rented. Most of the desks were still empty, showing no signs of ever having been used. There wasn't even a whiteboard, which made the room look even more empty. That's because they've got those cool glass walls you can just write on. There wasn't a lot of natural light. Maybe the windows were on the north side? The only illumination was from an overhead fluorescent light. The room felt very cold. Disregard those 4 windows at the back. Those don't exist.
ここはあくまでも準備室だから。
No one was sitting at any of the desks, but 2 of them had stuff on them. One of them was a mess, filled with notes, calculators, coffee cups, and supplement bottles. That was the one Maho sat down at. Which meant that the one that was neatly organized must belong to Dr. Leskinen, right?
教授は
今日はオフ。
Well, it was Sunday.
君も
ええ。そうじゃなかったら昼過ぎまで寝ていられるわけないでしょ。
That's true. When I'd gone to pick her up from her hotel in Wako City, she'd come out of the room half asleep. This was the day that I was to meet Amadeus Kurisu. Maho had gone over the basics of being a tester on the way here. Essentially, Amadeus needed sample data for conversations. They were going to give me an environment where I could talk to it at any time, 24 hours a day. Just what software testers love, being bugged 24 hours a day. She didn't give me any details beyond that, though. So I'll be able to talk to Amadeus Chrissy 24 hours a day, huh?
あいつはクリスのアマデウスはここにいるのか
ええ。
Maho nodded and gave me a
あい
glance.
つと呼んだわよね、今。
ああ
私が思っているよりもずっと親しかったのね、あなたたち。
Maybe my silence was an answer in itself. Maho's response was uncharacteristically hesitant. Oh no. It's Lukako. Okabe, may I have a moment of your time? Our options are, not today. I'm meeting someone right now. Is it important? Which of those? Not today just sounds mean. I'm meeting someone right now is okay. Is it important is what I would go with. Samus, do you have a preference for speaking to your favorite character? Is it important? Okay. No, it's not that important. Can it wait then? Alright, I'll contact you later. Sorry. No, please, don't worry about it. What is... That's Mayuri making a heart with colored, like, glow sticks, I think? Why do people send things in multiples? Yeah, Samus says, I figured we weren't gonna get to talk to Lukako, but at least that one wasn't just like, yeah, no. It was a genuine... Honestly, more people could do with having conversations like this, where someone asks, hey, can you talk? And your response is like, I'm busy right now, can we talk later? Unless it's important.
だとしたら、会うのはやめた方がいいかもしれ
Okay,
ない。
Samus says, question for you. Where does Maho rank in your top characters in this game, from what you've seen so far?
どうしてだ。
相手が親しい人であればあるほど、あのシステムは残酷だと思うから。
Pretty high? Because I know you liked Lukako for sure. You also liked Ferris. So is Maho in like your top 3 with them? Is that kind of where it is right now?
大丈夫だ。
Below Mayuri. Okay.
わかった。もう言わない。その代わり、一つ覚えておいて。ロードする記憶は、クリスが最後に更新をした3月のデータをベースにしたものよ。
So they're from March, which is before we met Christina. So she will have no memory of us.
だから3月
Why is your top 4 all-female characters?
例えば
Well, let's look at the male characters in this
彼女
game.
が日本に留学していた時のことを聞いても
Okabe,
全く通じない。
who for the most part of the first game is a total dickwad. Daru, who is basically also a total dickwad with very few redeeming features. He's literally a plot hook to hack stuff. Lukako at some point is male, I guess, so maybe your top 4 is like 3.5. We've got the landlord, who yells at us, stops us from doing experiments, and kills himself, leaving his daughter alone. Are there any other? I think that's all the major male characters. So, oh, and Christina's father, who's also a total dickwad with no redeeming qualities. Yeah, we were disrupting his apartments. So, I mean, yeah. I refer to Okabe as basically a total dickwad. That's right, isn't it?
それに3月から今日までの間に私や教授が何度も起動してしまっているから、その度にクリスは、アマデウスの方のクリスね。彼女は元のクリスとは違う記憶を蓄積しているわ。私たちが聞かせた話、ネットで検索した情報、新しく会話を交わした人たち、そういったものをね。
Oh, cool. Your AI just learning things by Googling the internet. Wonderful. Yes. Yeah, like... Yeah, Okabe, I would say, is a redeemed character. For, yeah, like you said, 90% of the game, he is a total dick. He has some redeeming qualities near the end. Like, really, for, I would say, the first 2/3 of the game, his only redeeming quality is his sheer determination.
つまりこれから会うのはあなたの友人だったマキセ・クリスではない。
Yes, he is filled with determination.
システムの問題点の一つなんだけれど、往々にしてこちら側、つまり人間の方が混乱してしまうのよ。
Knowing that one day you might find the IBN 5100 fills you with determination.
まるで本当のクリスと今この瞬間にチャットでもしているような錯覚に陥るから。
So it's so real, we'll think it's real, and then, I don't know, we fall in love with our computer and get married because Japan. Okay.
共有できていない記憶の齟齬に関してこちらの脳がついていけなくなってしまう。
It's just a Zoom call. That's all we're doing. It's a Zoom call. Does the AI maintain memories from other timelines? We don't know that at this point. What we know is the AI maintains memories from whenever the memory dump took place, and subsequently onward, assuming, I guess, that it's online. So any conversations it has, any, like, presentations, like Amadeus Maho went to, it would remember. And apparently they just let it Google the internet. I don't know how that works exactly, but they have access to the internet, so basically access to most information. Memories that aren't shared. Now there's a feeling I knew well. Reading Steiner. It was a power only I possessed, which made my memories different than those of the people around me. Maho gave me a slight nod. She led me to the back of the room. There was a booth, separated by a thick partition. To get inside the booth, you need a different card key than the one used to get into the room, as well as a security code. She entered the security code and unlocked the door. The room was about 2.5 meters per side. At one end was a white desk. Above it was a PC, with a built-in 30-inch screen monitor. There was a small sofa that let you sit behind the user and see what was happening on the screen. I sat there. Maho powered on the PC and began to type. A second later, the word Amadeus System appeared on screen. I saw her put the ID in. Salieri. Antonio Salieri, 1750 to 1825, an Italian composer who lived at the same time as Mozart. He was court composer at Vienna for many years and trained such famous composers as Beethoven, Schubert, and Liszt. Salieri and Amadeus. Amadeus is Latin for beloved of God, and the middle name of Austrian composer Mozart. There's also a play and movie about Mozart of the same name. So, Sam says you get music theory and music history today, instead of physics. Was there some meaning to that? Come to think of it, the famous movie Amadeus, there was a character who was spiteful and jealous of Mozart's incredible talents, but who, in the bottom of his heart, admired him more than anyone else. Speaking of music, you recorded a demo. Wonderful! What is your demo about? Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart, 1765 to 1791, an Austrian composer. Along with Haydn and Beethoven, he is one of the most famous classical composers. He began to write songs at the age of 5 and left us over 600 masterpieces. In the modern era, he is often referred to as a genius, and there are many stories about him. Most of them are probably not true, 'cause internet. That character's name was Salieri. Maho moved her body to hide her hands. I looked away. Working on a symphonic metal cover of How Many Tears by Halloween. Did a vocal demo yesterday to get an idea of what you wanted the vocals to sound like. Consider working on the backing tracks. Glad to hear it, Samus's. I'm not familiar with that song. I feel like it's one of the ones that was on your Twitch for Redeem a Song? Or there was something from Halloween? Maybe I'm getting that wrong. But yeah, I'm glad to hear it. I know recording music is quite difficult. And you spent all day working on it? Okay, fair enough. I don't know what I'm thinking of then. Maybe it was a different one of their songs? I don't know. Or I'm just not remembering things correctly. Also very possible. She finished logging into the system, and a simple bare command prompt appeared on screen.
準備はいい？
ああ、頼む。
Okay. I was probably then remembering the band name then. Maho entered several commands at the prompt.
ごめんなさい。ここはちょっと見せられないの。
まあ、俺が見たところでさっぱりだけどな。
でも一応ね。
Why did you let me into the room if you just want me to look away for a second? Why didn't you go into the room, do stuff, and then tell me to come in? She turned off the monitor, then she spun around to face me. I suddenly realized I was clenching my fists. How long had I been doing that? My hands were sweaty and there was a red spot at the base of my thumb, where my nails had dug in. Was I more nervous than I realized?
どうしたの？
Hearing the demo how tired you were by the time you got the recording done. Take 6, and he finally said he couldn't keep going and stuck with it. Yeah, I mean, if it was just to get a feel for what it would sound like so you could start working on the backing, 6 takes is probably enough. And I mean, you can always redo it later. Like, you might find that as you're doing the backing stuff that there's something you want to tweak. Music, like most things, is like an iterative process. It's not just going to be like a once cut and done kind of thing.
いや、今になってちょっとおじけづいてきた。
まだ間に合うわよ。今すぐここから出ていけばいいわ。
意地が悪いな。
そう？あなたのこと心配してあげてるのに。
だったらもう少しそれらしい言い方をした方がいい。クリスといい、君といい、実験大好きっ子は。
For a second, the old joking me was about to come back. I quickly changed the
実
subject.
験ばかりに明け暮れているやつは可愛げがない。
今の発言は明らかに誹謗中傷ね。侮辱罪で訴えてあげてもいいわ。
やめてくれ、恐ろしい。
いい弁護士を知っているから紹介してあげましょうか。
その前に告訴を取り下げてくれ。
示談に持ち込もうというのなら、それ相応の金額は覚悟することね。
後で毒ペンを怒るから。
Dr. P, the abbreviation for a type of carbonated beverage first served in America in the 1800s. At present, it's only available in eastern Japan and some other small areas. It has a very unique taste, and its secret recipe is a combination of over 20 flavors.
安い。
I heard a small sound from the back of her throat. I guess she was laughing? Normally I'd find that irritating, but strangely, coming from the girl in front of me, no, she was a grown woman actually. I didn't. Maho Hyajo was very strong-willed, with the prickliness and short temper unique to scientists. They always seemed to be a little upset about something. But maybe she wasn't that bad. Oh, I see. She, Maho. She's a lot like Kurisu. When I first met Kurisu, she was like that. Arrogant, rude, never willing to change her mind, stubborn, hard-headed, and always ready to confront you with raised eyebrows whenever you said something she didn't like. I truly thought I'd never seen a more unlikable woman. But despite my first impression, on the inside she turned out to be fragile, easily hurt, and so kind and so lovable.
何がおかしいんです、先輩。
I suddenly heard a girl's voice from the speaker. I found myself jumping off the sofa. I knew this voice. I couldn't forget it. I could never. Maho turned on the monitor. The girl I'd never forgotten appeared on the screen. Maybe it was based off her appearance at the brain science lab, because she was wearing a white lab coat. The PC's camera turned toward me on its own.
先輩、そちらの方は。
Maho was introducing me, but I didn't hear anything she was saying. I simply stared, entranced. I wanted to reach out my hands. I wanted to touch her. She was right there.
岡部倫太郎さん。はじめまして、牧瀬クリスです。どうぞよろしく。
Oh, cut to, intro. Well, I hope you listen to that now, because that's going to be DMCA'd from the video, I am sure. And that was the first chapter.
さあ、岡部さん、リラックスしてください。
Oh, we're at a psychologist now.
あなたは私の声を架け橋として
Dang, I can't open my
過
cell
去へと
phone.
降りていきます。どんどん降りていって、やがて柔らかい色をした光が見えてきます。
Don't walk into the light, don't do it. I was dreaming. Man, all of our dreams previously sucked. They were super creepy. Daydreaming. I was worried I was lying on a big sofa, undergoing counseling. I tried my best to stay calm and imagine what the psychologist was telling
そ
me.
の光は何色に見えますか？
赤。
Blood red. Wonderful.
赤ですか。なるほど。その光の中にあなたの大切な人が立っています。その人はあなたの家族でしょうか？
いや、
では友人？それとも恋人？
恋人。いや、恋人じゃない。友人ですらない。
Yeah, how the heck do you answer this question? Because, like, yes, they were friends. Yes, they were lovers. But
ではどういう？
俺とあいつは。
Memories came flooding back into my mind like a geyser.
ちょっと来てくれませんか？椎名真由里は必要ない。話して。あんたがタイムリープしたのは分かってる。真由里を助けて。ベータ世界線へ行きなさい。真由里が死なない世界へ。それがあんたのためでもあるし、私のためでもある。岡部は私のこと覚えててくれる？ねえ、私死ぬのかな？死にたくないよ。
Oh, I forgot to do a content warning for this game. Dang. I apologize. This game does deal with some pretty graphic stuff. Death, murder, blood, gore, sexual assault. There is content warning. Yeah, so I apologize for not saying that. But yeah, if that's something that you do not feel comfortable watching, please find somewhere else that will be more enjoyable for you.
岡部さん。
俺が刺した。俺が。
いいですか？私があなたの肩を叩きます。それを合図に意識がはっきりしてきますから。3、2、1、はい。
Or he just karate chopped us into oblivion. There was a loud sound, then I felt an impact on my shoulders. Kurisu's suffering face disappeared instantly, and I could feel my consciousness awakening. I stood up off the sofa. I felt dizzy and almost fell over.
大丈夫ですか？少し休んでいてください。今、タオルを持ってきますから。
The psychologist left the room. I realized I was soaked in sweat. The air conditioner was working, but I could tell it wasn't from the heat. It was the first time I'd tried hypnotherapy at a mental health clinic. Hypnotherapy, a method of therapy where the patient is placed in a hypnotic state and the therapist acts directly on their subconscious mind to remove the psychological traumas that lead to mental illness. In Japan, there is no government certification system for hypnotherapy, but therapeutic associations do offer their own certifications. Certified hypnotherapists are sometimes called hypnosis technicians. My body felt strangely heavy. When I got outside, it was night. It was almost December, and the wind was cold. Also, it means you will have winter clothing changes for people, because before everything was during the summer. Exhibit A. Mayuri Shina asked me gently. Mayuri was a high school student and my childhood friend. She'd come with me to counseling today. I told her I didn't need her to. She left school early to come. All I ever did was make her worry. Around 3 months ago, my one obsession had been saving her. To me, she'd always been someone I had to protect. And now she was worrying about me. It's only because of Mayuri's recommendation that I tried counseling. Oh, we now have the Amadeus system on our... Got the app? I can't... Okay. It's from Souza. Dang it, stop calling me Uncle. Gotta sack Uncle Okurin. So, apparently, our options are Mayuri ellipse staring up at the sky, us mad scientist going okay. What? Okay, time out. Why is Christina an emoji in this world line? Like, why would you make an emoji of your dead friend that you killed? That seems a bit... Okay. Yeah, like, no one knows who she is. She's just the person... Well, I guess they know we went back in time to try and not let her die and then we killed her. But that's about it. That's what they know. And yet we've made a series of emojis about her that everyone uses. And it's just like, that's so weird. Like, if your friends came up to you and were like, hey, you know that person we tried to save but I accidentally murdered 3 months ago? Can we just, like, use a bunch of emojis based off of their face? And I'd be like, no! I see no reason to say no to Suzuha, so we're gonna say okay. Listen, what do you think I should do about Mom and Dad? What do you mean? I just can't see them getting together like this. Well, you're right. Uncle Okurin, is there anything you can do? Yeah, so this is now after we tried to go back in time and save Christina and we killed her. So Suzuha is still here with us. She still has the time machine, so she can go back if she wanted to. But she's kicking around. Why would we be the first person you'd come to for advice on how to hook two people up? Okabe really doesn't seem like an expert in love. You know there's nothing I can do to help with that. You're right, yeah. Kind of hurts that you just gave up that easily. Doesn't seem to be your kind of thing, Uncle. Jealous? What? What does that even mean? Why would she be jealous that we don't have a good skill at hooking people up together? I don't understand. That's how the conversation ends. Cool.
まあ、大したことないってさ。
I told her a small lie to make her feel better. I mean, I assume Mayuri wasn't waiting outside in the cold in November, and that she was like, you know, inside the lobby or something, and could probably hear us screaming at the top of our lungs. Actually, they told me I'd suffered serious trauma. They'd stopped the hypnotherapy and given me a new course of counseling and drugs. They wanted to wait to see the results. Basically, they decided there was nothing to do but to treat my symptoms and wait for it to heal naturally. I couldn't tell if what Maho had shown me yesterday was having an effect. I underwent treatment without telling the psychologist about the time machine, or the world lines, or most of the things that had happened. So maybe there was no way for them to make a proper diagnosis. In any event, I decided not to think too much about the results.
なあ、マユリ。夕飯、これからだろ。何か食べに行くか。おごるぞ。
ああ、それなら秋葉原に行ってもいいかな。ルカ君とフェリスちゃんがね、久々にオカリンに会いたいって。
Akihabara, huh? The clinic was in walking distance of my house. Akihabara was much further away. Even so, I couldn't end Mayuri's request. Until the event of the summer, I'd gone there almost every day. In fact, I practically lived there. Lately, I only went 3 times a week at the absolute most. And then, only to go shopping on the way home from school. Went out into the plaza in front of the station. Just like in Ikebukuro, even though it was only a month until Christmas, there were barely any decorations. I was sure the whole place would be covered in them the minute it was December 1st. Eventually, I was sure to see maids in Santa outfits.
秋葉原でチラシを配るサンタ服を着たメイドか。
Akihabara could be really weird.
ああ、フェリスちゃんとルカくんだ。てってるー。ふにゃー、今日も。岡部さん、まゆりちゃん。
What? Ferris, what the nuts are you wearing? Ferris and Luca must have been waiting. They ran over as soon as they saw us. Yeah, I'm not... She's got, like, it looks like cat paws with, I'm guessing those are supposed to be, like, cat ears? I don't know, they're devil horns, and then it's just, like, a parka. Ferris Nyan Nyan jumped at me without the slightest hesitation. She was a maid, and Ferris wasn't her real name. I knew her real name, but if I didn't call her Ferris at all times, even when she wasn't working, she'd get mad at me. She was wearing the same outfit she always wore, her work clothes from her job at the maid cafe. May Queen Nyan Tiny Rays 2. Was May Queen gonna switch to Santa outfits soon? That's like literally the Uwu face. I tried to pull Ferris off me, but it wasn't working. Maybe I should just steal the cat ears off her head. So they're supposed to be cat ears, okay.
いいじゃないかにゃ。京馬とフェイリスの中だにゃ。
よくない。あと、京馬っていうのもやめてくれって。
なんで？
あの名前は黒歴史だからだ。
Net slang, an embarrassing part of your history that you would rather not talk about and that you wish was forgotten. Its origin can be found in a certain famous giant robot anime. Ferris looked upset, but I decided to ignore her. I'm not actually sure if it's Gundam. See, I was thinking Evangelion is where my thought was going to, but it could be. Kyoma Hoenn was a part of a past I'd sealed away. Don't know many giant robot animes. Giant robot anime is not really a thing that's interested me. I watched Evangelion more, like, less for any of the actual robot stuff and more for, I guess, the psychological elements of it. Yeah, the action-y combat stuff doesn't really excite me. I decided to pretend he never existed. He had melded with the forbidden invention called the Time Machine, and as a result, the systems that ruled the world had punished him. He dashed the hopes of many, lost the life of someone he cared for, and his heart had suffered grievous wounds. He must never be awakened again. I didn't need him anymore. That sounds like a statement that's going to come back to haunt him. I don't need my past self anymore. What should I call you? My name? By the way, Ferris was what Mayuri calls Faris. She claimed it was easier to pronounce or something like that. I agree. Faris is easier to pronounce than Faris. I don't know. Because her name at the bottom is Faris. Maybe we've just always called her Faris because Mayuri does that and everyone just calls her the same. I now need... Actually, I know what we can do. Backlog. What did we call her when she appeared? No, it's Faris. We've been wrong this whole time. Yeah, you can go back and play the voice lines. But not for the, like, internal monologue ones. She looked unsatisfied, but she backed away.
Lukako mo hisashiburi da na.
Lukako smiled happily. He always looked as beautiful as a pretty girl. But he's a guy. He was a classmate of Mayuri's and could often be seen helping at the Yanabayashi shrine where his family lived. Shrine Nakihabara, cross Manseibashi Bridge, then go under the side street, then go under the bridge there, and you'll see it, along the river. Home to many stray cats, as well as Luka Urushibara. I probably shouldn't call him Lukako. Just like I told Faris not to call me Kyoma. He had his own name, Luka Urushibara. But calling Lukako Luka after all this time, that would be really embarrassing. Are we still paying rent for this lab? We really shouldn't be. Lukako is Mayuri's name for her. Is it not on... Oh no, it was under Yanabayashi Shrine. Yeah, I'm not sure where the ko part comes from. Maybe it's a portmanteau of Luka and Miko? Maybe? Or Miko is Shrine Maiden? Did I skipped that line? No. Been busy with school, I had to get ready for ATF2. Even after that was done, I've been busy with Maho and Dr. Leskinen, and then Amadeus. Haven't had a chance to rest yet. Well, let's open up Amadeus. Oh. But I avoided mentioning that to them. We're cool, we're in a club now, guys. We're clearly in the basketball club, that's my guess. Okay, what's... Unidentified mysterious animal. A creature whose existence has not been confirmed by science. Examples include the Loch Ness Monster, the Yeti, the Japanese Kappa, and Tsuchinoko. The word UMA itself was invented by the Japanese, and no one outside of Japan will recognize it. Well, thank you. Unidentified flying object. Usually used to refer to spacecraft piloted by aliens. The term actually describes any kind of flying object whose nature is unknown. Who do you guys think I am? I guess I hadn't told them then. Mayuri, I'm pretty sure I told her. The two of them looked at me with wide eyes. I cracked a knowing smile and puffed out my chest. We play tennis now. The people around us all turn to stare at Varus and Luca.
なんでテニスサークルなのかにゃ。岡部さん、今までテニスなんてやってましたっけ？
初心者に決まっているだろう。
What do you mean you may not look it? You clearly do not look like you were good at sports. May not look it, but I'm terrible at sports. I'm confident I'd lose to my area at distance running.
話せば長くなるんだが、大学のゼミの准教授がテニスサークルの顧問なんだ。それで勧誘された。
一つも長くないにゃ。
いや、まあ聞けって。相手は一応世話になってる人だし、サークルに顔を出してみたんだ。
ふーん。
そうしたら、なんと俺にはテニスの才能があるらしくてな。初心者にもかかわらず、会員相手に連戦連勝だったんだ。どうだ、大したもんだろ。
はあ。岡部さんってやっぱりすごいです。
Varus just looks like, I don't believe you. And Luke is like, oh, you're so dreamy.
目指せウィンブルドンだね。
どうしたフェイリス？頭でも痛いのか？
どこからどう突っ込めばいいのやら。どう考えてもサークルの会員数を増やすための罠じゃないかにゃ。
はっきり言うなよ。俺もうすうすそうじゃないかと思ってたけど、考えないようにしてるんだから。でもみんないい人ばっかりなんだぞ。
They were probably like, we just have an uneven number of people for tennis. We just need one more person.
じゃあサークルの練習が忙しいんですね。
いや、練習はあんまりしてないかな。
はい。じゃあ一体何してるんや？
合コンとか。
Their shouts filled the whole street, and once again people turned around to stare.
そんなに驚くことないだろう。俺だって普通の大学生なんだから。
そうですよね。すみません。
Luke is busy like, which one of these marriage parties do I have to go to?
でも、
Luca was fidgeting like he wanted to say
フェイ
something.
リスというものがありながら、他の女の子たちと楽しく合コン。許せないにゃ。
勘違いするなよ。俺は女の子なんか別に。
In fact, I went along with the rest of the club. There really wasn't any place for a wannabe normal like myself. When did we become a normie? People who live satisfying and fulfilled normal lives. Examples are people with lots of friends, or people with girlfriends, or people who spend a lot of time at their school clubs, or who go to parties, or who aren't interested in anime, or who go outside Japan during summer break. Jeez. There's no way I could keep up with the conversations that the, well, normal normies had. While the other men and women were having fun, I would just kind of sit there. A matchmaking party was a challenge far beyond my capabilities. I wasn't going to tell Faris and Luca that, though. You're 16.
Nani?
Larry wanted to do what? Is she old enough to be interested in that sort of thing? I mean, yes, but not with you. Evidently not.
間違ってはいないけど、なんだか微妙にニュアンスが違う気がするにゃ。場所はラボでいいかな。ルカ君とフェリスちゃんはもちろん参加ね。あとダル君やナエちゃんやスズさんも。
Mayuri turned at me with a guilty look. Suzu, huh? Suzuha Amane, also known as John Titor, time traveler from the year 2036. A true warrior who was still fighting, even as I was trying my best to give up. I'd barely seen her since summer. I was avoiding her. Part of the reason I'd stopped going to the lab was that she spent all her time there now. Until a month or so ago, just hearing Suzuha's name was enough to cause flashbacks, all I could do to endure them. A symptom of post-traumatic stress disorder, patients who've undergone extreme trauma can suddenly, without warning, find themselves reliving the memories of those experiences. Flashbacks can cause symptoms like palpitations and shaking hands and feet. I mean, in this case, I think the nice part was they explained that it was part of PTSD, rather than just like a generic anime flashback. After 3 months, I could finally stand to hear her name. But I didn't think I could keep it together if I met her in person. Of course, it wasn't her fault, and I wasn't blaming her. So I didn't want her to blame me. She'd never come out and said it, but when she looked at me with that razor-sharp glint in her eyes, I felt something like guilt.
Huh?
マユシーね、ダル君と一緒に考えてるオペレーションがあるんだ。オペレーション?
Weren't we going to get food? Man, now I'm hungry. Dang it. Sounded like something the old me would have done.
どんな作戦かにゃ? すずさんを笑顔にしよう大作戦.
It's a crappy name. Why was Mayuri talking about this out of the blue? No, maybe it wasn't out of the blue. I might have been thinking about it for a long time, so I decided to respond as cheerfully as I could. As you tell me about it, I will be on my phone.
マユシーは思うんだ。すずさんって普段は怖いけど、本当はすっごく優しい人なんじゃないかなって。ラボにいる時にね、マユシーがソファーでうとうとしちゃうと、いつの間にかタオルケットがかかってたりするの。すずさんに聞いても、そんなの知らないとしか言わないんだけど。あ、僕もそういうことありました。以前、お父さんに買い物を頼まれて、その帰りに荷物が重くて困っていたんです。そうしたら、あまねさんが通りかかって、何も言わずに持ってくださったんですよ。
へえ、初耳だな。
こんなこと当たり前だから誰にも言うなって。あ、言っちゃいましたけど。
そっか。
No, not this one! In the Alpha World line, she was a cheerful girl who smiled at everyone. Loved to go mountain biking. Did we really need this picture for mountain biking? But in this world line, she wasn't the type who smiled a lot. This was partially due to the way she'd grown up. I'd heard about it third hand from Daru, but because of the universal conscription program that started after World War III broke out, she'd been forced to undergo military training ever since she was in middle school. After that, she joined up with the anti-government forces and gotten caught in a terrible struggle. After that, he said she'd never really smiled.
だからね、すずさんを本当の笑顔にしたいのです。
なるほどな。
で、具体的には何をするのかにゃ？クリスマスパーティーだよ。クリスマスパーティー？
We all spoke in unison.
もうすぐクリスマスでしょ。すずさんね、そういうパーティーをやったことがないんだって。
Yeah, you probably don't have a whole lot of parties in a dystopian future where everyone's at war with their government.
だからマユシーはすずさんにそれをプレゼントしようと思ってるんだ。
Varus and Luca nodded at almost the exact same time.
その話乗ったにゃ。僕も。ありがとう。オカリンも参加してくれる？
そうだな。
ダメかな。
俺はともかく鈴葉が嫌だ。
It's not about him wanting to or not. I was never going back to the past. I still couldn't forget the look on Suzuha's face when I told her that. It was an expression filled with anger and despair. It must have felt like her last, most desperate hope was crumbling away right in front of her eyes. The words she'd said to me then were still sharp thorns lodged in my heart.
鈴葉は俺を嫌ってるし。
マユシーはそうは思わないよ。すずさんはね、オカリンを怒っちゃったこと後悔してるんじゃないかな。その気持ちを素直に言えないんだと思うのです。
そうだろうか。
きっとそうだよ。
I couldn't turn her down after Mayuri said
わ
that.
かった。少し考えてみるよ。
We also didn't really say yes.
ところで岡部さん、
There's a bit of hesitation in Luca's
診
voice.
察はどうでしたか？
Evidently, Luca had heard about my counseling from Mayuri. Maybe he'd wanted to see me because he was worried about how it went. I guess I'm making Lukako and Faris worry too. In this world line, they hadn't joined the lab. Even so, they were still dear friends. I mean, if you'd played the first game or watched it, it's pretty simple, but people who join the Future Gadget Laboratory, anyone who's been given this designation has free access to the lab. Lab members are given numbers in the order that they joined.
催眠療法というのは初体験だったが、なかなか興味深かったな。俺は今まで催眠術なんかにはかからないと思ってたよ。驚いた。
かかっちゃったんですか？
見事にな。
へえ。そういうルカニャンも催眠術とかすぐにかかりそうだにゃ。
I mean, I guess it worked perfectly in the sense that he was able to access his subconscious.
そんな。
確かに速攻でやられるだろうな。
Luke would believe anything you told him. Anyway, there was no point in standing around forever. I was getting hungry and it was time to find some place to eat. About time.
なあ、お前たち何が食べたい？おごるぞ。
We decided to head towards Yodobashi. There were a lot of restaurants there, so it was perfect.
やったにゃ。じゃなくてオカリン太っ腹にゃん。
Yes, don't piss off the person who's going to pay for your dinner.
ありがとうございます。何食べようかな。唐揚げかな。
That's what you eat all the time.
ジューシー唐揚げ？マユシーはそればっかりにゃ。
I walked behind the three of them. I thought to myself, what would it be like if Kurisu were here? Well, let's ask Amadeus. Dang it. I tried my hardest for the past few months not to think about her, but was it because of my experience yesterday that I did anyway? The expressions and little mannerisms I'd seen yesterday, the voice, the way she'd walked, I remembered. I remembered my conversation with her.
岡部倫太郎さん。はじめまして、牧瀬クリスです。どうぞよろしく。
I couldn't respond at all. Something felt slightly off about the way Kurisu moved on the screen. It was really slight. I'd get used to it soon. More importantly, the voice and the way she spoke were exactly like the real Kurisu. I almost cried. It's all I could do to stop from breaking down.
先輩、そちらは深夜というわけではないですよね。
The camera on the PC switched from me to Maho.
ええ、違うけれどなぜ？
Should you not know the time?
お二人とももしかして眠いのではないかと。
Was she talking about the fact that I didn't respond to her
私
introduction?
はさっきまで寝ていたけれど、今はもうしゃっきり目が覚めているわ。
だらしないのは相変わらずですね。
失礼なことを言わないで。
では先輩、もう一つ質問しても？
ええ、何？
岡部倫太郎さんとはどういう関係ですか？
この前の ATF セミナーに参加してくれた学生よ。なかなか研究熱心だと思ったから連れてきたの。
Maho decided not to tell Amadeus that I was a friend of Kurisu's before she died. Why, I wonder? Did she not want Amadeus to find out? Or was I supposed to tell her myself?
先輩にそう言われるなんて大したものですね。
The Kurisu on the screen turned to me and smiled.
その
Calm down.
岡部さん、専攻はやはり脳科学ですか？
それは
The words got stuck in my throat. I said calm down. You know, this is just a program. Her words, her appearance, even the conversation she's having with you right now, they're all artificial. Even though I knew that, I still couldn't speak. I had no idea what to say. And more than that, the words nice to meet you hit me harder than I thought they would. This wasn't the Kurisu I'd spent those 3 weeks with. Maho had told me this ahead of time. I thought I understood it, but hearing it for myself hurt more than I imagined. I regretted not taking my anxiety meds, but it was too late now. Yeah, take your meds, everyone. Don't be like the main character here. My heart rate soared and my breathing became irregular. My head was spinning, and the corners of my vision were beginning to dim. At some point, my lips had gone totally dry. Glad to hear it, Samus's.
岡部さん。
In brackets, Kurisu sounded worried. That voice software must be pretty good if it could handle nuances like that.
彼の専攻は脳科学ではないわ。だけど、私たちの研究にとても興味があるんですって。
そうなんですか。
レスキネン教授も気に入ってるみたいだし、いずれは私の助手にでもしてやろうかと思っているところよ。
My head snapped up in surprise at Maho's bizarre statement. Me? Maho's assistant? Then I'd go to Victor Chandria University?
あら、お気に召さない？
お気に召すとか召さないとかそういう問題じゃなくて。
ま、冗談だけれどね。
冗談？
もしかして本気にした？
信じちゃいない。
We are very bitter. I wasn't gonna tell her that I almost did.
そう。でも、もっともっと勉強してくれれば、あながち冗談じゃなくなるかもしれないわよ。
仮にそうだとしても、レスキネン教授の助手がいい。
This was my way of getting back at her.
教授の助手って思っている以上に大変よ。あの方は本当に子供だから。
As she spoke, she quietly came over next to me, tapped me on the arm a few times. I see, so that was it. He was making a joke to try and calm me down.
悪かった。ありがとう。
何のことかしら？
I didn't think subtlety was her thing. Maybe I was wrong.
先輩、ちょっと。
Kurisu beckoned to Maho from within the screen in a very human manner.
何？
もうちょっとこっち。スピーカーに寄ってください。
Maho moved her ear close to the speaker. I was just thinking about how weird it was when... Maho suddenly turned bright red and shouted at the screen.
何を言ってるのあなた。そんなに照れなくても。
照れてるわけじゃないわ。とにかくおかしなことを言うのはやめて。
そうですか？
そうです。
一体何の話を?
It was obvious that Chris had whispered something to Maho. What did she say? Maho glanced at me. And for some reason, she blushed and turned away. Ah, I see. From the way Maho's acting, what I knew about Chrissy, there's only one possibility.
このスイーツかっこ笑い目。
A pejorative term used to refer to girls who are easily influenced by trends or who think in ways that men find impossible to understand. However, it is said that the only people who use it are often boys who have very little experience with women. I whispered a name I'd often teased Kurisu with and suddenly felt a lot better. I must have said something stupid like, "You two make a good couple," or, "You finally found a man, huh?" The way she looked at a boy and girl holding a friendly conversation and immediately assumed they were dating was just like the Kurisu I knew. Sheesh, what a system. It didn't need to be that true to her personality, did it? I chuckled. Think this Kurisu also browses @channel and Maho and the professor aren't looking too? A fictional anonymous message board that's the largest of its kind in Japan. Its catchphrase is, "Everything from hacking to tonight's dinner." Its boards discuss everything from underground topics to normal news. Nah, knowing her, she's probably commenting. I remember Kurisu once browsed @channel on the Future Gadget Laboratory's computer when she knew nobody else was around.
ちょっと入ってくるときはノックぐらいしてよ。
クリスティーナ、お前はやるべきことをサボって何を見ていた?
What is this music?
その、これはひどい。はいはい、ワロスワロスみたいな笑い方はなんだ?
Exactly, Samus. I don't know. Rolling on the floor laughing. Other variants include LOL, ROFLMAO, ROFL Copter. Okay, wonderful acronyms. Maybe it's Animal Crossing music because we really owe our Tom Nook landlord a bunch of bells.
失礼だな。ちゃんと毎日香りがきつくない香水つけてるぞ。
そういう意味ではない。俺が言っているのは魂レベル。
Is this a flashback inside of a flashback? Your soul's power level, huh? My silly remark seemed to have a much deeper meaning now. Was the girl in front of me one day going to, as Dr. Leskinen had said, become a real artificial soul? When that happens, what are we supposed to call a soul that still existed in this world after the body was gone? Not dead or alive, but something in between. This wasn't science anymore, it was philosophy, or maybe religion?
バカな話はここまでにしましょう。岡部さんだってこんな中身のないことを聞きたくて来たわけではないわ。
そうやってごまかすところがますます怪しいですね。
ウイルスをぶち込むわよ。
嘘です。もう言いません。
Kurisu quickly bowed her head. I bet back when Kurisu was still alive, she had conversations like this with Maho every day. I'm sure Dr. Leskinen had a lot of fun watching them. It was actually kind of cute.
お騒がせしてごめんなさい、岡部さん。彼女と何か話してみる？
Oh.
Maho offered me the seat in front of the PC. Kurisu's face was on the monitor right in front of me. Her eyes met, she smiled a little. I didn't know she reacted like this to people when she first met them. But my meeting with Kurisu went about as badly as it possibly could have. I realized that her prickly attitude toward me could have been unusual for her.
どんなことでも聞いてください。可能な範囲でお答えしますから。
そうだな。
This wasn't good. I was remembering every moment I'd ever spent with Kurisu. I couldn't think of what to say. And then the words that came out of my mouth were,
タイムマシンは作れるだろうか。
That was what I'd once argued about with Kurisu on another world line. In the end, I'd lost the argument completely.
はい。
え？
タイムマシーンですか。
何の話を始めるのかと思ったら、いきなり何？
ただのテストだよ。思考実験ができるかどうかっていう。
どうクリス？
そうですね。結論から言ってしまうとタイムマシンは可能ではない。けれど不可能とまでは言い切れないといったところでしょうか。
え？
That wasn't what she said.
最初に結論を言ってしまうとタイムマシンなんていうのはバカらしい代物だということです。
That was what Kurisu had said in the Alpha World line. I remembered that well.
俺はタイムマシンなんてバカらしい代物だと思うけどな。
I remembered our old debate and decided to repeat what Kurisu had said then.
そう決めつけるのは早計ですよ。
そうかな。確かに世界中の科学者がタイムトラベル理論を提唱している。主な理論だけで11あるが、どれも仮説の域を出ない。しかも理論同士が矛盾し否定し合っているものまである。
ええ。
例えば宇宙紐理論やワームホール理論。これらは思考実験としてはタイムトラベルを可能にするが、そもそも宇宙紐だのエキゾチック物質だの、どこからどう探してくればいいのか見当もつかない。つまり現実的ではない。
This was also something that Kurisu had told me in the Alpha World line. The Kurisu on the screen was
それ
unmoved.
は科学者がまだ重大な何かを発見できていないからでしょうね。
それじゃあ君はタイムマシンをいつか作れると思っているのか。
不可能とまでは言い切れない。そう言いましたよ。
Her opinion was slightly different. Was this because I was in the Beta World line? Or perhaps...
なあ、ヒアジョーさん。彼女は自分がオリジナルの記憶から派生した存在だということは認識しているんだよな。
もちろん。
じゃあ、うまい例が思いつかないんだが、一卵性ソーセージみたいなことはあるのか。生まれた時は見分けがつかない。だが育つにつれて差異が出てくるとか、そういうことを。
それについてはまだ検証中だけれど、蓄積されていく記憶が異なれば当然元の人間とは違うものになっていくと思うわ。私と教授はそう考えている。
そっか。
It was then that I heard the door on the other side of the partition slam shut.
教授かしら。
あの大きな足音はそうじゃないでしょうか。
I could definitely hear somebody stomping around outside. Then after a heavy knock, the door to the booth flung open.
リンタロ
Lintalo. The professor opened his arms wide as he came inside, grabbed my hand and began to wave it around. I hadn't realized he was this friendly. He seemed to think he was giving me a handshake. It felt like I was being worked over by a pro wrestler.
Hey boy, what's up?
え、ああ、 I'm fine, thank you. And you?
岡部さん、ひどい英語ですね。
黙れクリスティーナ。
クリスティーナ？
Oh no, I was so focused on the professor that I used my old nickname for her.
なんでもない。気にしないでくれ。
気になります。なんで私がクリスティーナなんですか？
だからなんでもないというのに。
なんでもない割には動揺してますよね。
しつこいぞクリスティン。クリス。
Kurisu and Maho both seemed lost in thought.
クリスティーナって呼んでいたのね。
君もそこに食いつくな。
I didn't want any more questions about this. As the professor was here, I decided to ask more about how Amadeus's memories worked.
教授、アマデウスの記憶を外部から改ざんすることは可能なんですか？
But the professor wasn't listening to my question. He seemed to be frantically searching his pockets for something. Come to think of it, I didn't see that translator device on his ear. He must have been looking for it, which meant odds were good he didn't even hear my question.
私の記憶の改ざんですか？理論上は可能です。
Kurisu herself answered in the professor's place.
例えば、私が自分の名前をクリスティーナであると思い込む。そう仕向けることもできるでしょう。ただ、普通のデータと違い、記憶データはとても複雑です。
Kurisu named subject change. Perfect.
今のところ、改ざんに成功した例はないと認識しています。仮に改ざんに成功した場合でも、私がそれに気づいて自分で修復してしまうでしょう。私は、私以外アクセス不可の領域にログを取っていますから。つまり、秘密の日記ですね。その日記と現在の記憶との間に不自然な齟齬があれば、私は高い確率で疑問を抱きます。
Your back is starting to hurt from this position, but you can't move? Samus, please be in a position that doesn't destroy your back.
さらに言えば、私の記憶データは定期的にバックアップされています。自己修復が不能なほどに改ざんされたとしても、復旧することが可能なんですよ。
Fair enough. You are trapped between a bad back and a cat place.
最終バックアップから改ざんされた時点までの記憶はなくなってしまいますが。
そっか。
Regardless of the topic of discussion, it felt strange. What Maho had said before she loaded Kurisu was true. I was starting to feel like I was chatting with the real Kurisu. The way she wouldn't let you get a word in edgewise when she started talking about science was exactly like the real Kurisu.
しかし、興味深いな。
I turned towards Kurisu and spoke.
君は自分のことを機械として客観的に語ることができている。小説や漫画でよくあるパターンだと、自分は機械ではない人間だとか言い出しそうなものだが。
それは全くナンセンスですね。人間そのものが自分をハードウェアとソフトウェアの組み合わせとして語るじゃありませんか。医学とか心理学とかそういう名においてね。それとどこが違うんです？
なるほど。
さすがへりくつなら誰にも負けないわね、この子。
When she heard this, Kurisu turned toward Maho, her CG eyes big and round. It was really just the camera sensor moving.
ねえ先輩、余計なお世話かもしれませんけど、口が悪いのを少し直した方がいいですよ。せっかく春が来そうなのに嫌われたらどうするんです？
だからその話に戻るのはやめなさい。
けど私にとっては今一番興味があります。
一番どうでもいいことでしょ、そんなの。
これが人生最後のチャンスだったらどうするんですか？
あなたこそその口を改めなさい。
は
Dr. Leskinen was clapping his hands together and laughing. I had to chuckle a little too. Afterward, the three of us, including the professor, talked to Kurisu, discussing technical subjects and making small talk. Next thing I knew, it had been almost an hour. I actually felt a little sad when Maho told me that it was time to stop. In just a single hour, the strangeness I'd felt about Amadeus had disappeared. I felt like I was really talking to Kurisu. Dr. Leskinen stopped me before I left.
テストをやる気はあるかな？
I tilted my head when I heard the professor speak through the translator.
エンテウスにはタイヤ散歩が少なくてね。うちの研究室の子たちを総動員してはいるのだけれどね。
とはいえ、アマデウスはまだ研究段階だし、誰彼構わず接触させるわけにもいかないわ。
そこで、クリスの友人だったレインターロにぜひとも協力してほしいんだ。
I remember they'd mentioned something about being a tester at the party, so this is what they were talking
私と
about.
教授はしばらく日本に滞在する予定なの。だからテスターをお願いするのはその間ということになるわね。あなたにしてもらいたいのはとにかくクリスと対話を重ねてもらうこと。具体的なノルマのようなものは特にないわ。気が向いたら話をするぐらいでいい。ただ月に2回程度は私と教授にテスト経過の報告をしてほしいの。
それと、申し訳ないけれど、報酬は出せないんだ。そこも含めて。
Ah, yes, an internship.
俺は
亡くした友人をそっくりそのまま再現した AI と話をさせる。それは君にとってとても残酷なことだとは理解しているつもりだよ。乗り気でないのなら断ってくれていいからね。
I remembered what it felt like to talk to Kurisu. The monitor was just about to turn off. This is what Kurisu had said. Let's talk again sometime, Intaro Okabe. That's what I'd hoped for when I came here, wasn't it?
やります。やらせてください。
I thought I was ready when I accepted the job, but I'd never expected this. Okay. We're getting a call from the robot.
はい。
マキセですけど。
Kurisu was displayed on the screen. Yes, it was Amadeus. Do we really need to explain what an app is? Application software. Any software that can be used by downloading it to your... How could you just drop OS? I feel like more people don't know what an OS is than an app. Okay? Allowed me access to the servers at Victor Chandri University from anywhere, 24 hours a day. Trying to think of a dumb thing I can say instead of the real thing. I'm not thinking of it. Onion soup, yes. You run computer software applications on your onion soup. Makes perfect sense.
Okabe さんからクリスの方へ呼びかけることができるのはもちろんだけれど、クリスの方からあなたに呼びかけてくることもあるから、その時はうまく対応して。
This I hadn't predicted. I'd never thought she would call me. Or that her face would be displayed on the screen.
それともクリスティーナですけどって自己紹介した方が良かったですか？
She looked really mad. I could guess why. I'd gotten 8 calls from Kurisu, and I had ignored all of them.
事情はレスキネン教授や先輩から聞いています。だから最初に一言こちらから挨拶しようと思っていたんですが、 まさか8回もイルスを使われるとは思いませんでした。なんで黙ってるんですか？
Talking to a realistic girl on my smartphone with so many people around, it's pretty embarrassing.
まあ、話す気がないならそれはそれでいいんですが。なんなのよ。せっかくいつも以上に人と話せるチャンスだと思ってたのに。バカみたいじゃない。たく。いずれにせよ、テスト中は私はあなたといつでもつながっていますから。気が向いたらどうぞ連絡してきてください。こっちも忙しいので、あなたの連絡にいつも出れるかどうかわかりませんけど。
You're a piece of software. Does like, can you not accept multiple calls? Do we not have like multi-threading on this? Do you as a program consciously only exist in one location? Man, what is this? More than that strangely polite, friendly Kurisu from yesterday. Angry, stubborn, more curious than anyone. The way she seemed to be constantly challenging you.
それではお邪魔しました。
I realize that this really was Kurisu Makise. That was the girl I'd spent those 3 weeks with, lab member 4, my assistant Christina, aka Kurisu Makise. Her movements were a little more jerky than I'd seen on the computer in Dr. Luskinen's office, but evidently that was because of the smartphone. This alone was enough to make me feel like my heart was being squeezed dry. I stood still, holding the smartphone tight.
じゃなかった。あかりん、どうしたにゃ？
ああ、今行く。
I just can't open Amadeus, though. I thought to myself as I ran to catch up with the others. Maybe Dr. Leskinen was right, and this test would be a very cruel thing for me. But even so, in my mind, I was already starting to think about what I would talk about with Kurisu. Maho Hyajo was remembering. She was remembering the last night she'd spoken to Kurisu Makise in person. That March 28th, 11 p.m.
冗談じゃないわ。こんな大事な時期になんで私が。
That night, Kurisu was whispering to herself a lot. Victor Chandra University's Brain Science Institute. Maho and Kurisu worked in the same room at the lab. Thus, Maho was forced to hear Kurisu's angry mumblings, whether she wanted to or not. A little was fine, but she'd been acting like this all day, and was keeping Maho from concentrating. She finally snapped and turned away from the paper she was writing.
ねえ、ちょっとクリス？
English was the language most commonly used at Victor Chandra University. When the other staff and professors were around, she'd always use English. When it was just her and Kurisu, Maho would often speak in Japanese.
いい加減にしてくれないかしら。
Plot reasons for why this isn't in English. There you go.
え？ああ、何がです？
Kurisu stopped messing with her luggage and turned around.
うるさくて集中できないのよ。この論文、明日までに教授に提出しないといけないんだけど。もしかして私独り言言ってました？騒音口外で訴えてあげようかしら。すみません。
Kurisu apologized and started to scratch the back of her head. Maho decided to calm down by standing up and going to the shelf where the research notes were kept. There were several books she needed for her paper. But they were all on the top shelf. This must be someone's idea of a prank, she said. She stared up at the heavy book. She decided to try and reach for it, but no matter how she stood on her toes, she came nowhere close. Her tiny little arms seemed to her like dead branches waving in the wind. She bit her lip. After she'd skipped grades to go to college, then come to work at this lab, she'd had more chances than ever before to hate her small stature. Whenever she walked outside after dark, the cops would stop her. Even with her ID, she couldn't get into bars, and buying medicine and alcohol at drugstores was a pain. The most humiliating part was no matter where she went, everyone thought she was in middle school. Nobody believed her when she said she was 20. Everything in America was just too big. This sounds like a kid's book.
取りましょうか。
Chrissy noticed the trouble Maho was having and came over. Maho was stubborn and decided to pretend nothing was wrong.
大丈夫よ。別に困ってなんかいないもの。
困ってるじゃないですか。
困ってません。
そうですか。
そうです。
でも私も借りていきたい本があるので。
Kurisu easily reached up to the highest shelf and grabbed the book Maho wanted.
背が高い人はいいわね。
いえ、私もそれほど高い方では。
Kurisu covered her mouth when she realized she'd said something she shouldn't have.
ありがとう。助かったわ。日本で何か必要なものがあったら言ってね。送ってあげるから。
はい、ありがとうございます。
Kurisu handed over the book as she spoke, and then suddenly, her eyes went wide and began to sparkle.
ねえ先輩、今の話ですけど。
That's the opposite of your eyes going wide. That's called shutting your eyes.
今の話ってどの話？
独り言ですよ。
え？おー。
Looked like Kurisu had come up with a new idea. This was a regular occurrence for Kurisu, and Maho was used to it.
それって自我の証明の一つになるんじゃないでしょうか。
アマデウスの？
はい。
確かにあの子がいきなり独り言を言い出したらびっくりするけれど。
No matter how advanced an AI was, it wouldn't talk to itself unless you programmed it to do that. There was no need or even a point to a feature like that. Yeah, tell that to a client. Clients love features that there is no need for or no point to. When AI started talking to itself, that might be a good indication that there was a self to talk to. Maho hesitated to agree with her.
ここではめったなことを口にするものではないわ。魂は神が人間に与えたもうたものである。そう考える人たちが多いことを忘れないで。
そうでしたね。
Kurisu's expression dimmed. Kurisu and Maho were both treated as heretics in the lab, especially since they were Japanese and women. And Kurisu was simply too talented. Nobody ever actually did anything, but a lot of the older scientists were definitely avoiding her. Dr. Leskinen was the chief scientist, and the fact that he liked the two of them was all that let them do their research in peace. The other scientists heard Kurisu just said, who knows what they'd do. Maho patted Kurisu on the shoulder. Thanks, America.
しばらく日本でリフレッシュしてくることね。
それが納得いきません。
どうして？向こうの生活だって楽しいと思うけれど。
留学するなら大学院ですよ。なんで高校なんですか？
仕方ないでしょ。日本では年齢的にあなたはまだ高校生なんだから。教授の思いやりは素直に受けておきなさいな。
Maho remembered what Dr. Leskinen had said. Kurisu has a fragile personality. All the bickering in the lab is putting her under a lot of stress, and she's at her limit. It might ruin her as a researcher. That's what the professor had said. He was really worried about her.
それにもともと7月になれば日本に行かなくちゃいけなかったんだからちょうどいいじゃない。
はい。実はそれも憂鬱で。
秋葉原テクノフォーラムだったかしら。
公園なんて慣れてないし、 何をどうしていいのか。
Well, don't worry, Samus. We've got about 10 more minutes, but you are free to leave now if you wish.
サイエンス誌に論文が載った以上、これからもどんどん増えるわよ。練習しておかないとね。
やだな。
This is important. Sleep is always more important than watching me play games. I just realized my head is covering up this stuff, so I'm glad I have to read all of it out, because I did not notice that before. Kurisu whispered to herself. Maho didn't like being around lots of other people either, so she knew how Kurisu felt. There were a lot of scientists who wanted to be published in a major journal, then go on to give public lectures. Thank you, Samuses! And she'd beaten out many of them to win that honor. People were jealous. She needed to fulfill her responsibilities, even if just to shut them up. Maybe I'm not that much better, though. Maho silently laughed a little and hated herself for doing it. Maybe I'm just as jealous as they are. That feeling, which was also a little like fear, was something that she always felt. The girl in front of her was just that different from Maho. Someone she could never reach, no matter how hard she tried. Someone who surpassed everything she'd ever done almost instantly.
先輩?
Chris was peering into her face, confused. Maho felt flustered.
日本でお父さんには会うの?
He'd heard that Krisu's parents weren't divorced, but that they were separated. Her mom was still living in America and her dad was in Japan. After Maho said it, she wondered if that was too personal a question. But Kurisu smiled a little.
実は父から招待状が届いたんですよ。
へえ。
夏頃新しい理論の発表会をするそうです。それを見に行こうかと思ってます。
新しい理論って？
Kurisu's smile changed into a small expression of consternation. I'm not familiar with that word, but okay. Consternation. Yep.
まだ詳しく聞いてないんですよね。相対性理論に関することらしいんですけど。
Theory of relativity refers to two theories published by Einstein, the special theory published in 1905 and the general theory in 1916. These are the source of the famous equation E equals mc tiny raised 2, as we all know. Special relativity makes clears up the following. Okay? Matter cannot exceed the speed of light. The closer you get to the speed of light, the slower time gets. You reach the speed of light, time stops. The closer you get to the speed of light, the more your length decreases. You reach the speed of light, your length becomes 0. The closer matter gets to the speed of light, the more its mass increases. If it were to reach the speed of light, its mass would become infinite. General relativity adds the following. Time slows down in the presence of a strong gravity field. Space compresses in the presence of a strong gravity field. Mass increases in the presence of a strong gravity field. There's your physics lesson, Samuses. Maho felt like she was hiding something, but didn't question her anymore.
とにかく気をつけて行ってくることね。お土産期待しているから。
何がいいですか？
そうね。せっかく秋葉原に行くのだから、何か珍しいものがいいわ。秋葉原詳しいのよね。
え？なんでです？
休憩時間によくそういうサイト見てるじゃない。
まさかアマデウスが喋ったんですか？
あの子はそんなことしないわ。あなた、私が後ろにいるのに動画に夢中になってて気づかないことがあるわよ。は
あ、まさかバレていたなんて。自分のうかつさが憎い。
Kurisu actually seemed upset for once. This really surprised Maho.
先輩、お願いです。どうか他の人たちには内密に。
別に隠すことはないと思うけれど。
The idea of sharing a secret with Kurisu made Maho happy.
わかった。言わないでおくわ。
助かります。
Kurisu seemed genuinely relieved. Maho continued.
ねえ、あなたが日本から戻ってきたらアマデウスが独り言をつぶやけるかどうか二人で検証してみましょう。はい。
Kurisu had a very happy look on her face. The face of a born scientist who loved to explore the unknown more than anything in the world. Her smile was as innocent as that of a child who'd just been given a new toy. It was very beautiful. It was one of the reasons that Maho liked the young researcher quite a bit. But the promise the two of them made would never be fulfilled. In fact, they would never even meet again. Felt like she was thinking about Kurisu more and more since she'd come to Japan. Maho didn't know if it was because she was in Japan or because she was talking with the Amadeus Kurisu more often. Or maybe was it because she'd met the young man named Rintaro Okabe.
私の知らないクリスを知っている人か。
Thinking back, the first day they'd met, she'd broken down and cried right in front of him. Something she didn't really want to remember. She chased the memories away out of embarrassment.
さては岡部さんのことを考えていましたね。
She snapped her head towards the PC monitor. Maho was in the middle of a conversation with Kurisu.
そうね。
She shrugged her shoulders and tried to ignore Kurisu's mischievous smile.
不思議だと思わない？レスキネン教授が岡部さんのことをあそこまで買っているなんて。2度しか会ったことのない相手なのにあなたのアクセス権も渡してしまったし、あそこまで信用していいのかしら。誠
実そうな人でしたが。
そう？向上心があるのかないのか少しつかみどころがない人だったわ。
好きなんですか？
あなたね。
Maho brought her face close to the monitor and glared. But Kurisu seemed unconcerned. Mainly because you should bring your face close to the camera, not the monitor.
昨日は本人の目の前だったから仕方ないにしても、今は私たち二人きりですし。
Kurisu may not have looked like someone who would, but she really enjoyed the sort of gossip. Maybe girl talk was the right word. Maho sighed and sat back in her chair. The creaking sound echoed throughout the empty office.
本当にそんな感情はないわ。岡部さんはどんな人なのかさえまだよく分かっていないのだから。
なるほど。まあそうでしょうね。
Kurisu let the matter drop. This bothered Maho a little.
ただ気になるのは。
何です？
いえ、なんでもないわ。
Maho had been spending a lot of time thinking about something since yesterday, to the point where she'd even put off her research. What kind of relationship was there between Kurisu and Okabe? What was Kurisu's feelings in the days before she died? She would have liked to ask Okabe if she could.
先輩、私のオリジナルと岡部さんは知り合いだったんですか？
Maho shivered. It was as if Kurisu had been reading her mind.
どうしてわかったの？
岡部さんの話や先輩の反応などを聞いて判断しました。状況証拠を積み上げただけですが、証明しましょうか？
別にいいわ。あなたのことだから反証の余地もないでしょ。
The way they used words like proof in normal conversation showed that both Maho and Kurisu were scientists at heart.
相手だけが一方的に私との記憶を持っているのでは対話に齟齬が出てしまう可能性が高いです。
彼と話していく上でどうするのかはあなたに任せる。岡部さんの方から切り出してくるかもしれないし、なんならあなたから聞いてみてもいいわ。
Maho still didn't know if Okabe would even access Amadeus at all. They weren't forcing him to.
知らないふりをするというのは嘘をついているのと同じことになりますよね。興味深いデータが取れそうな気がします。
Yes, it was interesting. That was her opinion as a researcher working on Amadeus. How would Rintaro Okabe feel about it? Wouldn't this be rubbing salt on the wounds in his heart? Maho realized she was getting much too sentimental.
やっぱり日本に来たせいなのかもしれないわね。
It's been a week since she'd arrived. First thing she'd planned to do was offer flowers. But she still couldn't bring herself to visit the Akihabara radio building, the place where Kurisu had died. That's the building, 8 stories in Akihabara, lots of computer and hobby shops. On the 7th floor, the plate reading the birthplace of personal computing. And that seems like a good place to call it for today.